Tequila Tuesday. I think this is number 87. It's either 87 or 88 of Tequila Tuesday now. We're approaching magic number 100. Appreciate you spending some time with us today. I'm going to introduce our friend, Jason Komosa, here in just a second. He is going to talk to us about destroying stress, some tips and tricks and tactics to reduce, if not eliminate, some of the intensity around the stress that we all feel, life and career and all that kind of stuff. Fun fact, maybe he'll get into it. Ryan and Jason used to work together back in the day. Ryan Walker and Jason used to work together back in the day at Groupon. So this relationship runs deep, goes back a few years. Before getting into that, I wanted to give everybody a quick little update on GTM Assist. As you know, hopefully, and are paying attention to, this is our community-based partner selling, referral selling arm of GTM United. We've unlocked multiple millions of dollars in less than 2 weeks so far for our vendor partners. So those of you who've had a chance to dig into the Airtable and claim some accounts and things that you might be able to broker introductions for, we appreciate you. If you haven't had a chance to do it yet, please take a look at that and get on in there and put some claims in. There were 3 new vendor partners that we uploaded today. Work Life, who you all know, who shared some of their time with us and their product with us. Work Life has put some accounts in GTM Assist. Reggie.ai. Those of you who don't know, Reggie's co-founder will be with us in 2 weeks on Tequila Tuesday. So Reggie.ai has got some accounts there ready to be claimed. And then Gong is in there. And Gong sent me a list of 40,000 accounts. And I did not upload 40,000 accounts. I told Brian, put a couple hundred in there. Let's start there. So you've got Gong.io, Reggie.ai, and WorkLife as 3 brand new vendor partners that are in there. And we've got more coming. My mind is swirling right now because I've had so many people reach out to me. I just got off 3 calls in a row, made some text messages to Ryan like, this shit is about to blow up, dude. So we are starting to make a name for ourselves with this community and the GTM Assist program. So hopefully you can participate in that, get yourself paid, learn a little bit about what we believe is the future of sales, and have some fun along the way. So thanks for that. Jason Komosa, once again, is here. He's a seller. He's a sales leader, ex-Groupon, startup savant, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, sure.
Ryan and him go back quite a bit. And Jason has been putting some killer content out there of late about how to fight stress and deal with the challenges that we all go through. And we thought it would be a great idea to have him on and have a non-sales related topic, kind of an ancillary thing that we all go through regardless of our role. So I'm going to shut my mouth now and kind of turn it over to Jason, who's going to share some things with us. As always, the questions drive the conversation. So please raise your hand, use the raise your hand button. If you got a question, use the chat function. Let's make this as interactive as possible. And welcome, Jason, to Tequila Tuesday.
All right, Scott, Ryan, thanks, guys, for having me. Very much appreciate it. And thanks to all of you for showing up here. I know it's a bit later in the day for some of you. So, again, appreciate your time today. And what I'd like to do, if it's okay, Scott and Ryan, I just love to do like a quick 2-minute like grounding breath work. Is that okay with you guys?
You're in charge, man. It's your show from this point forward.
Awesome. So, guys, everyone on the call, what I'd love to have you do is everyone could just close their eyes and just breathe, right? So the goal of this 2-minute grounding breath work is just to hit the reset button. So we're going to breathe. And as we breathe, we're going to focus all our attention, all our energy on the breath. So there's no to-do lists. There's no tasks. All we have is right now in this moment, the present. Maybe go ahead and wiggle your feet a little bit. Maybe feel your blood flow slowing down. Your muscles getting a bit heavier. And breathing out any shit that doesn't serve you, any toxicity, negativity, stress, tension, anxiety. Just get rid of it through the breath. And with each inhale, we want to breathe in that positivity, that love, hope, courage, strength, and wisdom. Feeling centered, connected, and grounded in this moment. And if you find your mind wandering to do tasks or checklists, it's totally cool. Just bring that concentration, bring that attention back to the breath. Remembering that life is short. It's up to us to choose an optimized way of living. And we'll all take one more big deep breath in and out. Whenever you're ready, go ahead and open up your eyes and we'll kick things off. All right. How's everyone feeling? All right? Sweet. Everyone, let's see here. Everyone see my screen here?
Yes, sir.
All right, awesome. So, guys, I have 4 slides here. Each slide is roughly 10 minutes, give or take. Again, the goal here is to be as interactive as possible. So I want you to ask questions. Honestly, like I want to talk as much as possible. This is about you, equipping you with stress diffusing tools. So there's going to be some stories, some analogies. We'll dig right in. So I'm going to tell you a story about flat tires. And this is the way I love to kick off a lot of the presentations I do, is to talk about an example that happened to me and how stress played a huge role in my day. So I came downstairs, Monday morning, dressed for work, had my shirt on, my pants, and I come outside. And what happens? I look down and I see a nail in my tire. And I immediately go to this place of negativity, right? I immediately go to this fucking sucks. I can't believe I got a nail in my tire. I'm going to be late for work. This is going to hijack my entire day. There's going to be this huge negative ripple effect. A laundry list of shit that I was telling myself, getting myself worked up about, when the reality is I had the choice to not go negative. I could have gone positive, right? But I chose to go negative. And so the first kind of lesson here, or the thing I'd love to share with you, is that we all have a choice, right? There's a stimulus that happens in the world. There is a space that we are gifted. And then in that space, we determine how we're going to respond to the stimulus. So nobody makes us do anything, right? You've heard sometimes people say, well, he made me do that, or she made me. It's like we have the choice to choose how we're going to react to any given stimulus. Are we going to be the hero or the victim? Right? And I was being the victim. I was poor me. I should have never taken my car to Tony's garage, right? All this bullshit. When I could have instead said, how grateful am I that I have a car? How grateful am I that I have money to pay insurance and gasoline? And how grateful am I that I have Uber and a bus and a bicycle so I can get to places I need to go? It didn't occur to me that I had the choice, right? I always thought, no, like it fucking sucks. No. Zoom out and understand that we have control here. We have the power to choose how we're going to respond to any given stimulus in the world. It's not like the tire gods were say to me, oh, wow, Jason looks really stressed. Jason looks really upset that his tire is flat. Let's go ahead and just automatically inflate the tires. That doesn't happen. So the only thing that's truly occurring is I'm depleting precious, finite resources, my energy, to something I can't control. And we do this a lot. We love to expend energy on stuff that is out of our control. And again, that doesn't serve our highest purpose. one of the greatest things that I recently learned in the past couple of years is this idea of gratitude and how it's essentially the Pac-Man that eats stress. So when we find ourselves stressed, an actionable tool, and if you want to write this down, an actionable tool is to think about all the things you're grateful for, right? Again, grateful that you have a car, grateful that 999 out of 1,000 times your tire isn't flat, right? When we choose to have and express gratitude, the chemical DHEA is released in our brain. And that is scientifically the antidote to stress. So anytime you find yourself stressed, take a moment, use that pause before your response. Take a step back and say, what can I be grateful for in the situation, right? How can I choose which way I'm going to go, positive or negative? Because I get to choose. It's my choice. I'm going to make it the best, which is positive. I don't want to go negative. I don't want to waste that energy. The last thing here before I go to the next slide is this idea of asking yourself, how would the 80-year-old version of yourself respond or react to this situation? What is he or she doing, or what advice is he or she giving you in this moment? Whether it's a flat tire, whether it's a lost deal, whether it's a problem with your husband or your wife, right? Thinking about how does that version of the old wise version of myself, how does he or she feel or respond, or advice to what I should do in this moment? Because oftentimes that best version of ourselves will give ourselves the advice or infuse us with the advice that we want or need in any given situation. Any questions here so far on this slide when it comes to honoring the stress?
Jason, if you don't mind, I just want to pepper in with one quick thought. What's up, man? Good to see you, first and foremost. I just want to make a comment that I used to think for a very long time that these types of mindset shifts and the idea of, and I mean, let me just quick pretext, like in sales, if you want to be successful over any extended period of time, and the same thing goes for any type of role that you're at a high growth startup, you have to realize that the things that you cannot control, and you have to have a very thick skin and a very short memory at the same time. But I used to think that some of the stuff around mindset shifts were bullshit and a little bit fluffy until I realized that they weren't.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it takes going through really, really difficult and life-altering challenges to truly appreciate what it is that you do have. And I think for some folks, the switch just flips. But yeah, I just for a long time thought like, cool, I get it. But until you actually are intentional about practicing this stuff, that's when things start to really change. So I just wanted to chime in with that because it was sort of top of mind.
Yeah, no, and thank you for sharing it. You're totally right. It's like drawing that line in the sand where if you ask yourself the question, right, can I control this? And if the answer is no, it's almost like that's an immediate disqualifier to get it off of your mental plate. Because more often than not, especially in sales or startup, right, like there's like, oh, well, the market sucks and like, X vendor didn't sign the contract. It's like, okay, none of those things you can control. You can control the inputs, how many calls you're making, how many emails you're sending, how many conversations are you having. These are the things you can control. And ultimately, the outputs are merely an organic byproduct of the inputs. So if you continue to focus on the inputs and almost ignore the outputs, right? Like put a blinder on, the outputs are going to come because of the inputs. So definitely, and thank you for that comment. Really good. Good stuff there, man. So this is, again, just a bit more stories. Hopefully they resonate. They can give you some tools or techniques. You ever gone to a concert, an outdoor concert or a festival in the summertime, and you're enjoying music and popcorn and beer, whatever it is, and it starts raining, right? All of a sudden, this huge thunderstorm comes in, and it's raining and pouring down rain. And what's happening? And you see these people that are trying to outrun the rain, and they're crazy. I'm not okay, right? They're dripping wet, they're soaking. And you look at them and you go, well, those people are just as wet as I am. And I'm cool, and I'm just walking along, doing my thing, right? And the idea of embracing the rain and knowing that you can only get so wet and that eventually the rain's going to stop. The idea that, again, like, are we arguing against reality? Are we arguing against what is? So by fighting that rain, by trying to, I'm not okay, like, you're just working yourself up. You're arguing against the reality, when instead you could take a step back and just go, you know what? Yeah, this kind of sucks that I'm wet or whatever, but oh well, like, I'll get through this, I'll live. As opposed to, again, the opposite of like going negative, right? You get to choose. Am I going to go positive or am I going to go negative? One of my favorite authors, Brene Brown, says the only time human beings suffer is when we argue with reality. Again, when we argue against what is. And the equation is pain times resistance, right? So if there's pain, which is inevitable, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to suffer. If you're stressed out, you can remove the resistance, right? Don't resist, allow it. And when the resistance becomes zero, well, then all of a sudden your formula, as you know, easy math, it's zero. You're not going to suffer because pain times zero is going to be zero. So again, this idea of accepting what is and allowing it to just be. Allowing it to just be. One of the tools I love to teach my clients is this idea of personifying stress. And what I mean by that is, most of the time, or a lot of the time, when people are stressed out, they try to ignore it, or they try to push it down, or they try to trick themselves into thinking or feeling that they're not X, right? So if they're stressed out, but they're telling themselves, no, like, I'm not stressed, and they're lying to themselves, that actually exacerbates the stress, right? It makes it worse if you ignore it. So instead of ignoring it, flip it around, do the opposite, and invite the stress into your atmosphere. Embody it as another version of yourself. And what that looks like is, let's just say I'm stressed. So I'm here, I'm Jason, I'm the CEO of all the Jasons. I notice that I'm getting stressed. And so what do? I go, it looks like stressed Jason has showed up. Looks like stressed Jason is here. I'm going to acknowledge that he's here. I'm going to accept that he's here. And I'm also going to make it known that I, the CEO of all the Jasons, I'm in charge. So I'm going to let him be here. And I know that eventually he's going to go away on his own. Versus ignoring it, pretending he's not there, and watching him grow bigger and bigger in the room. Right? A lot of folks, I don't know if this resonates with you, but when you have this idea of a feeling you don't want, and you're trying to get rid of it, and you're trying to push it away, it just makes it worse. Does anyone feel like that ever? Anyone ever have that happen to them?
Hey, Jason, can I come in?
Yeah.
So, I jokingly say this, but I call myself a recovering entrepreneur turned SaaS sales executive. And so basically before COVID, we were doing like $60,000 a month at my juice bar called Life Bar. And then when COVID happened, we were forced to shut down. So we went to zero overnight. And we completely tried to shift our model and create a CPG brand like Daily Harvest, and it just didn't work. And I really, like, me as a founder, like, I really was always, that's me. It's like, I'm a failure. I'm a founder, and I just failed at this. I screwed up, not able to help this. And like COVID just really fucked me up.
So is there a question?
I mean, it's like, how do you embrace just the shit?
Yeah.
That's my problem, and not like look at myself and judge myself and be like, I'm just a piece of shit.
Yeah. Well, first of all, to me, where does my heart go? The first thing my heart goes to is actually, if the business didn't work for whatever reason, you actually won because you took the risk. So the win is not whether it wasn't, sorry, let me back up. The win is not whether or not your business was a success. The win is you took the leap of faith and did the thing. Right? Again, you focus on the inputs. You didn't focus on the outputs of like, how many locations do I have or how much money? Like, you just focus on this feels good to me. I want to do this. This is right. And I'm going to go after it. I'm going to do it. The COVID thing is out of your control. So you can honor the feelings and say, yeah, this fucking sucks. My business went to zero, and it's totally okay to feel that. And simultaneously, you can also have the feeling of, you know what? I did my best. It fucking sucks that didn't work, but I'm going to take the learnings. I'm going to extract the data, and I'm going to use it to fuel myself moving forward. Because all the stuff that happened is valuable data. Even though it may be considered a loss in your mind, you don't know what's going to happen. 5 years from now, what if a business opportunity comes along and you're like, well, I wouldn't have known any of this stuff had I not done that. How does that feel?
It feels right. I mean, I feel like 2 years later, I'm in a better place. But when, you're at zero money, you're borrowing on negative, everything's negative.
Yeah.
Your bank account's at zero. I mean, stress is real. And it's
Yeah.
like, this is the part that I'm really trying to figure out, like, how do I move forward? So this is helpful. So thanks for saying that, Jason.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Jason, yeah, I just want to comment on this from my perspective, Chase. So, and I think this is one of the reasons why the type of work that Jason does is so incredibly important now more than ever. And I think 2020 for so many people brought folks to their knees for whatever reason that may be: financial stress, mental, physical well-being associated with this drastic shift that happened in the way that we had to operate our lives. And I mean, 2020 easily was the most difficult year of my life for a few reasons, COVID related and not. And I was actually talking to my wife about this the other day. Chase, thinking about being in those types of situations, or situations that have that type of pressure, or have that type of weight, cop out or not, cliche or not, what I've realized in my life is that I'm always going to continue to strive to achieve. And yeah, I want the outcomes. I do want the outputs. I also appreciate that the inputs are the things that then drive and deliver the outputs. But at the end of the day, and I know this sort of ties into a foundation of what I might be butchering this, but Buddhism, but life is struggle and life is pain. And I honestly and truly believe that I derive a ton of motivation and appreciation around what I'm able to persevere through. So it's less so about what and you hear this with so many entrepreneurs, successful celebrities, whoever, like the material world of being able to accumulate as much money as possible and financial security and things that afford you, amazing, buy houses, cars, whatever. How many of those people are so vacant in terms of fulfillment in their life? My appreciation for my ability to respond to difficult situations and how I bounce back from those situations is really what I think life's purpose is. Obviously, the things that I care about around providing for my family, loving the people that I care about, huge part of it. But it's like, I have a ton of respect for anybody, myself included, that can get punched in the fucking mouth harder than they've ever gotten punched in the mouth, and then stand the fuck back up and figure out what they're going to do next. Like, I have found that throughout the 35 years of my life of like now being the driving force is like, what the hell can I persevere through? Which makes the sort of, when you reach the summit or reach the top of the mountain, you've achieved the things that you want to achieve, you can look back and say, even in the times where I was getting punched in the mouth, I was appreciative of what I had. So that's just my 2 cents on it.
Yeah. Amazing sentiment. Thank you for sharing. I'm an analogies guy, right? So like the analogy I love to think about is like old school 90s video games. If you ever played 1990s video games, you know that you defeat the boss to go to the next level, right? So if you're on level 7 and you want to beat the boss to go to level 8, you know that level 8 is going to be harder than level 7 because it's supposed to be, Because if level 8 was as easy as level 2, you would say this game sucks. You wouldn't play it. It's the same thing with life. Every problem, every challenge gives us an opportunity to prepare us for the next challenge that we will have, inevitably. We will face the next challenge. And whatever challenge we're faced with now is in preparation for that next challenge. The last thing I'll just talk about real quick is this idea of a stress beach ball, right? You blow up a beach ball. You ever try to submerge the beach ball? If you let go of the beach ball, flies up right out of the water. And that's what happens again when you're ignoring the stress, when you don't embody or embrace the stress, and you don't process it, and you just, again, pretend it's not there, that beach ball thing is going to fly right in your face. So we don't want that to happen. This next slide here, these are just some reminders. The first one, and I love this, I don't know if there's a lot of parents on the call. Parent yourself as you would a child or a pet. And what I mean by that is if your 7-year-old comes home from school and she's upset and angry and tired or crying and, whatever it is, if she comes home, how are you going to show up for her? Most likely, it's going to be with compassion, extra love, empathy, encouragement, positivity, right? Lots of love. You would say things like, it's going to be okay, we'll try better next time. All these, again, positive reinforcers. But when it comes to ourselves as adults, we love to beat the hell out of ourselves. We love to say things like, oh, that was such a stupid thing I did. I can't believe I applied for that job. I'm not good enough. I should never have dated that guy. All these things that don't serve us. They don't serve our highest purpose. And so if we can learn to use our parenting or pet skills to ourselves, and we show that compassion and love to ourselves, it gives us this self-love that removes the weight off of our shoulders. It removes this unnecessary anxiety or tension that we oftentimes bring onto ourselves. The second thing here you'll notice is the acronym HALT, H-A-L-T. And that stands for hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Science says roughly 50% of the times you're stressed is due to one or more of these basic needs not being met. So imagine if you have a conversation with your wife and you had a terrible night's sleep and you have 4 hours of sleep and you're running thin and she says something and you blow up. It's like you probably wouldn't have done that or reacted in that fashion had you had a great night's sleep. So again, before responding, take that step back and say, is this like my real, true, genuine reaction or genuine self? Or is this the tired version of me that's giving an answer or reacting or responding? Again, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. I've always asked myself this when I'm feeling like, again, off, a bit stressed, anxious, like, are my needs being met? Are my biological needs being met? You'll see here, there's an algorithm, if, space, then. I love to run my life on algorithms. This is one of the best tools I don't know why I don't teach this in school, but the idea of writing algorithms and then running them regardless of how you feel. If I feel stressed, then I go for a 2-minute walk. If I feel stressed, then I take 5 deep breaths, right? Whatever it is, you write the algorithm that supports your techniques and how you want to live, and you run them regardless of how you feel, right? And this can be for anything, right? For like working out. If it's 5 o'clock, then I'm going to the gym. Doesn't matter how I feel. If I write the algorithm that serves my highest purpose, I'm going to do it. Stressed in real time or imagination. This is another thing I see a lot of folks do where you get laid off. Yeah, you can honor the fact that you got laid off and it fucking sucks, right? And are you stressed about being broke a year from now or running out of money 18 months from now, right? So you have this worry about what could happen in the future. Well, I could go broke. Yeah, that's true. But you could get a job that pays even more money than your old job. Or you could start a business, right? That makes you more money than before. So we're like segmenting a negative or a certain portion of like what could happen. And we're making ourselves suffer in the present as if the future reality was now. So like our bodies and our brains are reacting or living as if we're actually out of money, we are broke, when in reality, we're not. Does that resonate with anyone? And if not, totally cool.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it totally resonates, and I think by the comments, it resonates with everyone here. It's pretty. I love this conversation because it's just very thought provoking, and I'm probably older than most everyone here, so the fact that the self awareness of those of you that have dealt with some of this stuff already is pretty awesome. But I'm a guy that still gets mad when I lose to one of my kids playing hoops or something. And then I try to remember the bigger picture, and a lot of times it brings you back to the things you're talking about, whether it's something like that or, what Chase went through, which is, got to be tough, but it brings you back to the thinking about the things that really matter. And if you're okay health wise and all that, it's going to work itself out. So anyway, I appreciate the conversation.
Absolutely. And segueing into this next bullet point, you are not your feelings, right? We oftentimes will embody the feeling that we have when we know that feelings, it's impossible to be a feeling because feelings are temporary, right? You feel happy, you feel sad. You feel hungry, you feel full. So when you say things to yourself and to others, like just notice the difference here. I am stressed versus I feel stressed. When you say I'm stressed, psychologically, you're embodying, like, this is part of me. Well, no, you're not stressed. You're a man, you're tall, you have blue eyes. Those are the things you are. What you feel, you're hungry, you're stressed, and you're tired, right? Those are temporary. So just by having that mindset shift and knowing that you're not your feelings, your feelings don't dictate who you are as a human being. And so if you can remember that, like, okay, I have this feeling, whatever it is, if I don't like it, eventually it's going to go away. All feelings are temporary. The last thing here before the next slide, how can we be the bystander waiting for a bus, watching the cars go by? And as the cars go by, they are our emotions. So we're standing there, us, the CEO of ourselves, are just watching the emotions and saying, that's interesting. As opposed to, again, embodying whatever it is. We're not the car. We're the bystander watching all the emotions, watching the cars go by, and just taking notice. Any questions there, folks? Cool. So before we open it up to Q&A, this is the last slide here. This is more about actions, right? So the first bullet point is displacing stress / sacred bitching. So what are you doing if you have stress and you're still feeling stress, and let's say you breathe and you're still having this feeling you don't like? Displacing stress could be things like going for a walk, exercising, push-ups, reading a book, meditation, right? There are these outlets, especially journaling. Journaling is a great way to literally take the stress, take the anxiety that's in your body, use the pen and paper, not a keyboard, use your pen and paper, and you write whatever you're feeling. Whatever you're feeling, you write to yourself. And through that exercise, you're displacing the stress onto something else, onto the paper, onto the run that you do, or the push-ups that you do. The idea of sacred bitching. It's one of my favorite practices that really nobody does. And the sacred bitching practice is pretty simple. It's basically finding a friend, your spouse, whoever, a coworker, and you ask them, hey, look, I want to release some stress here. I want to talk with you. I don't want your opinion. I don't want your advice. I just want you to hear me and acknowledge my feelings. And it's not your deepest truth. It's not who you are at the core of your soul. You're just unleashing whatever you lost your contract or the business went under. Cool. Let's fucking unleash it. Get rid of all of it. Talk about how much it fucking sucks. Let yourself pour it out. And then when you do that, you realize it's not with you anymore. Again, whether it's talking to someone, journaling, push-ups, it's not inside you anymore. You're getting rid of it through another outlet. Oh yeah, we already talked about this. Loving your kid as you would a kid or a pet. Starving fear. This is a great one to remember. Fear's favorite food is time. So if you're stressed about having a conversation with your manager, right? Let's say you have a topic you want to talk about and it's stressing you out and you have a hypothesis that your manager is not going to like it or whatever. The longer you delay that conversation, the bigger the fear grows, right? So how do you kill the fear? You go have the conversation as soon as you possibly can. Otherwise, it's staying with you for hours, days, weeks, and you're constantly ruminating, thinking about, oh God, I have to have this conversation. It's like starve the fear by killing off its food, which is time. Running towards the fear, again, acknowledging it and then head on versus trying to pretend it's not there and you're just, again, ruminating. It's just growing. It's not doing yourself any good. Another amazing bullet point here is the 90-day rule. You ask yourself when something shitty happens, will this matter to me in 90 days? Will the poor Wi-Fi that I get at Starbucks matter to me in 90 days? Or will the fact that, my dishwasher doesn't work today, will that matter? Virtually all problems in our lives won't matter to us in 90 days. And in the rare instance that there is a small percentage that will matter in 90 days, again, journal about it. Give yourself the space to say, you know what? This is one of those times that it's going to affect my life, whether it's, you get laid off, your business goes down, or you go through a breakup, whatever it is. Allow yourself that space. And again, journal. Get rid of the feelings that you have onto something, ideally a pen and a notebook. Taking a fear inventory is another way to de-stress. Ask yourself, well, what am I really afraid of here? What am I really afraid of? And go down different levels to see surface level, here's what I have, here's what I'm feeling. And again, continue to take an inventory of why am I feeling this way? And you can Google fear inventory. There's a lot of different worksheets out there. But the idea is, again, to acknowledge the fears you have and then to rationalize them or to see what I thought or what I felt actually isn't that big of a deal anymore. Or I'm proactively diffusing the fears I have by building a relationship with it. This is the last story, and then I'll turn it over to Q&A. There's a story that I love. It's a story about two Mexican farmers and their neighbors. And one of the neighbors' horses, they're on farms. Sorry, I should have mentioned this. They're on big farms, lots of land. One of the farmers' prized horses runs off into the woods. And so the neighbor comes over to the other guy and says, hey, man, your prized horse just ran away. This must be the worst day of your life. And the horse owner says, it is what it is. Next day, what happens? The horse that ran away comes back with 10 other wild horses. So now this farmer just gained 10 extra horses for free. The neighbor comes over and says, oh my God, you are the luckiest man alive. You got all these free horses. This is the best day of your life. And the farmer says, it is what it is. Next day, the farmer's son is riding the champion horse, doing his laps, and the horse throws the son off of the horse, and the son breaks his leg. And the neighbor comes over and says, oh man, I saw that, the horse threw your son off, broke his leg. Oh my God, must be the worst day ever. And the farmer says, it is what it is. And finally, the next day, their government comes to their door because there's a draft, because there's a war going on. And what happens? The son who just broke his leg is spared from war. So the neighbor comes over and says, they got my son to the draft. And he says, but your son's saved because it's got a broken leg, best day of your life. And the farmer says, it is what it is. So again, we oftentimes like to label things as good or bad. There's no such thing. It just is what it is. This is life. And that's all I got for you.
All right, we open it up to questions, comments from the group right now. A lot of applauses coming through. Just hit the raise your hand button. There we go. Shane Jameson, go ahead. You go first, Shane. I saw that.
Well, it was an accidental touch, but I don't really have a direct question. I was trying to clap, but I hit the wrong button. So next person on the list, go for it.
All right. Go ahead, Jocelyn.
Hi, Jason. Thank you for some of those tips. And just, I think the last thing that you said, it is what it is. Sometimes I get really frustrated at the simple sort of mottos because I think the pain or life doesn't feel that simple. So it really is when you break it down that way. So thank you for that. My question is relative to like let's say something bad happens to you and you're in the moment. Like, what are the 3 like crucial things that you do before you respond to something negative?
Yeah. So great question. The first thing I would do is, again, use that pause, step back and like take that pause, right? And then from there, breathe. So it's hit the pause, breathe, and then determine what almost like if there was an invisible video camera in the corner of the room that would be streaming your answer or response to the world. How would you want to show up for that video camera? How would you want to show up for your family, your kids, your parents, whoever? Like, that's the optimal response. Go with that. Does that help?
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Got it. Yeah, of course.
All right, Evan, go ahead. Evan Griffiths.
Yeah, so I guess my question is, what is the role ego has in this situation? Because I think that it plays a real heavy role on both the induction of stress and also on the management of stress side, at least in my personal experience. I would love to know what your perspective is, since didn't seem to get mentioned, but I think that it's probably something that you think about pretty intensely.
Yeah. Is there something specific? Like, I want to make sure I'm trying to like, is there something?
So I'm the kind of person that can tend to put myself in a lot of stressful situations because I expect myself to be able to handle it. I'm also someone that tends to resolve a lot of those stressful situations by taking responsibility, which requires a little bit of an ego to say, hey, I can take what I can take, on both ends of the spectrum. Yeah, I think it plays a role. I would love to hear if you have any thoughts on managing that proactively or mitigating it retroactively.
Well, so first of all, having amazing self-awareness to know, like, there's some sort of ego thing going on. Like, we all have egos, right? In my experience, what I found is the less of an ego we have, right? The more stoic we can be. And I have like stoic, I have tattoos of like stoicism. Like, the more stoic and neutral we can be, the better. Because oftentimes we will do things, even at a subconscious level, that are, again, subconsciously feeding our ego, or we're doing it because of the ego. And therefore, it's not aligned with who we are or what our core soul is. And that causes internal chaos or disruption. So for me, it's more about taking a step back and saying, like, okay, again, having the conversation with yourself. Is this my ego? Like, am I being egotistical here? Is my ego getting in the way? Those types of questions, asking yourself and being true to yourself, right? Giving yourself the true, real, honest answer, which is whatever it is.
Definitely. And I appreciate the works of Seneca and Marcus Aurelius just as much as the next guy. I guess the follow-up question there for me would be, is there a place that spirituality has in this for you?
Amazing question. It's an amazing question. Yeah. I mean, am I a spiritual guy? I believe in the universe. I was raised Catholic, but I believe there are higher powers that be. And I also believe that there are forces in our universe that are far beyond the rational mind, that the universe is conspiring to help us, to give us what we want, if we ask the world, the universe, for what we want, and we do our best, like the universe is conspiring to help support us. And our gut feeling is like the nudge. It's like the little nudge, the future us. The gut feelings are like our future version of ourselves giving us a little hint or a nudge.
Awesome. Appreciate you entertaining my left field trash as usual.
Yeah, man.
What super positive self-talk. You learned a lot. So
Connor, look at this. This is where's Connor right there? That's for Connor.
Daily Dad.
Yeah.
Let's go to Matt Sullivan.
Well, actually, I think Ryan was ahead if he wants to go.
Yeah, I know Ryan was ahead, and I purposely skipped it.
Okay. Well, I was trying to be respectful, so.
Yeah. You let me worry about respecting Ryan, Matt.
All right. All right. This might be a tough one to like nail down to one or two, but my question would be: do you have a podcast or a book that you'd recommend around this very broad, deep topic?
Yeah, I'll show it again. Right here.
Oh,
can you guys see it?
Thank you.
This is literally, it's 1 page a day. So I start my morning by reading the 1 page from Ryan Holiday, and it's literally like there are no more pages than it's all one per day. And the idea is, again, to start your day and have this as like top of mind. So before I open my laptop, before I do anything, I come into my office, I read the 1 page of the Daily Dad, 1 page of the Daily Stoic, and then I write my 3 goals. My 3 things I'm grateful for, and my 1 big goal for the day. I do that every day.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
And Joe Peck says hi. Thanks.
Okay, now we can go to Ryan.
Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome.
I want to touch on this because I don't talk about this ever outside of like probably my wife and a few friends around the idea of spirituality. I am not a religious person. I was also raised Catholic. I'm not a religious person mostly, and I'm not going to draw a line or offend anyone. I tended to be a little bit of a history buff in certain instances, and I have some issues with the way that organized religion has operated for a number of years. So that aside, I think when I realized that I am a spiritual-ish person was when I was able to drop my ego low enough to appreciate the fact that there are things that are happening, mathematically speaking, in terms of odds, around us in the universe that we could have no fucking comprehension of what's actually going on. So if I can't tell you how, so that's sort of my take on this. If you appreciate what you do not know, then there is always going to be open opportunity for interpretation of how this whole thing that we call life exists. Mm-hmm. My question is, and I think a lot about, because I sort of went through this journey a little bit 2020, certainly last summer when I had a big change in my life around stoicism and really appreciating some of the tenets of Marcus Aurelius and a lot of those teachings. Like, why, Jason, do you think that now more than ever this seems to be super prevalent in sort of mainstream society? Like, my 2 cents quickly is like, I think 2020 just threw a complete wrench in so many people's lives that they had to really drastically shift how they thought about the priorities in their life. And a lot of that with people coming out of the office and having to force work from home, and people losing jobs and people having so much uncertainty, like we haven't had in a very long time, just drove people to that position. But like, what do you think is causing this rise in prevalence of these types of practices and this self-care more than we've seen it in, I think, decades at this point?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And Ryan, I'm with you on the COVID thing. I think the COVID thing only boosted the idea of mental wellness and mental fitness. I also think that over time, the idea of mental health and mental wellness has been destigmatized, right? You have kids that are, so I don't know how old the folks on the call are, but like I have a younger brother, he's 29, and his friends, like they openly, all of them talk about how they have therapists, and like, it's like almost like like if you don't have a therapist, like why don't you have a therapist? So it's this idea, I think, of destigmatizing like like you don't need to have like schizophrenia or like extreme bipolar to be in this world of like I want to improve my mental fitness. Again, I think over time we've seen this where it's just more normalized in society. Thank goodness, but we still got a long way to go. Yeah, Connor, you're right. That's what I'm. My tagline is like personal training for your mind, right? The idea is like we're getting your mind in shape because most of us are running our operating systems, our brains, on 1992 AOL CD-ROM Windows 95. We haven't upgraded our learnings. And a lot of our beliefs that we inherited from childhood have just carried on to adulthood, and we haven't done anything to upgrade it. And so I'm the guy who I can come out here and say, look, I want to help you fucking upgrade your mind so that you're thriving on all cylinders and you're literally building a life that you want to live.
Great. All right, let's go to Nathaniel Dean. Go ahead, Nathaniel.
Thanks, Jason. I wonder if you've read The Upside of Stress and how that plays into your the main tenets of this, if I'm remembering correctly, is that stress isn't naturally bad, but how you interpret stress affects how it affects you. I wonder if that plays into your methodology here.
Yeah, so and that's Kelly McGonigal, right? I think that's Kelly McGonigal, the book.
Yeah.
So yes, there is a such thing as good stress, right? And from my understanding, good stress, things like graduation, buying a house, getting married, like these things where there are good types of stress. I think that my personal philosophy, as I mentioned earlier in the call, like the stress we feel, like that's our choice. We can feel it, but then we can acknowledge it and say, well, where do I want to go from here? Because I have a choice. Whereas 20 years ago, I would just think, well, this is who I am, or this is how I have to go. I didn't have the learnings or education to understand I don't have to be in this modality or this mindset. I can actually do something to change it. Like I have the power. And that's, again, what I didn't learn. I never learned that you had the power to do this.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right, let's go to Anthony.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate this. I have kind of a two-part question. The first part is, it is what it is, right? Getting old is tied to acceptance that your body is going to be shutting down. And that's one side of the coin. What about the other side of the coin where you're like being specifically held back? That's not necessarily it is what it is when it's a target. And I've heard a lot of individuals, my bosses or other members of whatever it might be. How do you manage the second part of that versus acceptance?
I don't know if I'm fully understanding the question.
Sorry. So basically, like if somebody is targeting you, like a nepotism, they are valuing somebody over you specifically, and it's an unfair advantage for somebody else versus it is what it is.
Mm-hmm. So, like for example, like you're applying for a job, and the hiring manager ends up hiring his nephew over you,
and only working with that individual and not helping you out.
Yeah. So
I've heard similar stories.
Yeah. So my initial first gut reaction would be, they're doing you a favor because you don't want to be with them in the first place. So get the fuck out of there.
What if you can't get out, right? What if you're kind of stuck there because you have to make enough money right there to stay in that position, right? Like how do you reframe that as an opportunity to move forward? And the reason why I'm asking this is because it's kind of an edge case.
Yeah. Anthony, I think maybe we should just chat offline. That might be good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Let's do it.
And then the other question was just getting into this type of self-care, right? Do you see something that people jump into in the very beginning is like starting with meditation, the 1 page a day? Is there a recommended like 2 or 3 things to do from the very beginning for those looking to enter into that?
Yeah, a great question, Anthony. The first thing I would do is don't try to go out there and be Marcus Aurelius. Like do something tiny, stupidly small to start. One example is like, I'm working with a guy who wants to lose a ton of weight. He's very overweight. And he's talking about how he wants to go to the gym and like do all these things. I'm like, yo, let's just like take it day by day. And instead of trying to go to the gym for 90 minutes when you haven't worked out in 30 years, let's like just do like one lap around the block. Can you walk one lap around the block and then like talk to me tomorrow? Can you do like 1 push-up or 5 push-ups? Like, don't go out there and try to like just be this new crazy version of yourself. Do what, like, have a direction of where you want to head, but don't get caught up in like the semantics of like, oh, I have to do a half-hour meditation or I have to journal for like, none of that shit. That doesn't work. You have to kind of figure out what works for you, what feels right for you, and then capitalize upon that, right? So some people love journaling, some people hate it. Some people love, again, sacred bitching, talking to their spouse and getting those feelings out. Some people don't like talking at all. They would rather text it. I mean, it's like what works for you might not work for someone else. So I would start with the idea of like what feels right for you, and do that.
Jason, and I'm probably going to butcher this, but I have to pepper in with this.
Let's do it.
You know, everybody, just like Stoicism, for like a number of years, the last few years, people are obsessed with James Clear and Atomic Habits. And there's a lot in that book that really helped me get certain things on track. And you reminded me of a instance of that book when you talked about somebody that's trying to get into the habit of going to the gym and get into shape. And he's so far ahead of where he is in that moment, where to start, he literally woke up, whatever it was, 5 o'clock in the morning, drove to the gym, walked in, turned around, got back in his car and went home. And that was the start of his journey to losing. I mean, I think he lost a ridiculous amount of weight. He started by literally just going up and conditioning himself to get there. And I thought that was like, whoa.
Yeah, this like, and it's so tiny, right? That's such a tiny micro win, but it's the momentum is what you're focusing on. You want to light the wick, right? Too many people are trying to fucking burn down the whole country. Light the wick, start small.
Literally.
That's true.
That's very different Tequila Tuesday.
Yeah, that's true. Anybody else have some questions? Want to dive into anything with Jason? All right. Well, right on the hour mark. Oh, is that a hand raise, Dean? Go ahead, Dean. You're up.
Yeah, appreciate everything you said. Kind of a 12-step program in a sense. I can tell you this: I am a spiritual person, and for everybody on this call, bad shit's gonna happen. That's just part of life. And when it does happen, write it down, note it up, because it's for a purpose. It's to teach you something down the road. I'm living proof of that. All I was going to say is what's always helped me, and maybe this room can help with that too, is find somebody, and I prefer you not get a spouse, but find a buddy. If you want to call it an accountable buddy, then call it that. But when you're having these feelings, or having these doubts, pick up the fucking phone and call them and say, hey, listen, here's what's going on. And, be accountable to each other. It's a small thing, but it goes a long way. And the biggest takeaway I got today was basically the thing about anger. For me, my anger, when somebody angered me, I was right and you were wrong. And I usually blew a gasket or two. And now I learned to, do I think it's called the 3-4, breathe in, breathe out 4 times. And
box breathing.
I'm a little bit better now, but, all I can tell you is, guys, everything that y'all been through, I've done already once or twice, and it's going to be okay. And I believe that because of my spirituality, and yes, I am a believer in Jesus Christ, and he watches out for me, and everything happens for a reason. It's not a mistake that you're on this call. So that's all I got. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Dean.
Appreciate that, Dean. Jason, you want to leave us with any parting thoughts? Tell everybody where they can connect with you, engage with you.
Yeah. So, I mean, please please LinkedIn me. My name's Jason Komosa. Like that's where I get a lot of my content, and I want to help people. The other thing I'll say is for the folks still on the line, I'm giving out. So this is Men's Mental Health Month. Emily, you're included in this. Anyone who wants to book a 45-minute call with me, again, it's at no charge. So just LinkedIn me. I'm happy to chat. Again, I want to help. My goal here is my mission in life is to infuse people with this wisdom and positivity so that, we all die happy with no regrets. So hit me up, please. I mean that. Let's keep chatting. And honestly, love yourself like you would a kid or a pet. Keep loving yourself, guys.
Really appreciate you spending some time with us. Thanks everybody who participated, whether you sat silently or engaged, asked some questions. We appreciate all of you for being a part of Tequila Tuesday and GTM United. And we'll see you all next week.